morning, all and soul fans. We're back here on the channel and we're going to make breakfast for the kids. So you can buy flour in a bag. We love King Arthur all-purpose flour, but about a year ago we started grinding our own grain. So in addition to making waffles, I'm going to show you a little bit about how you're going to grind your own grain this morning. And when you get the whole grain, and it includes the hulls and the seeds, you get a more nutritious flour for your family. It tends to contain more protein, and so it's more nourishing, especially for these young growing bodies that we have in this house. So we're going to get into it. We'll talk to you here in just a second. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to grind our grain for this recipe. I've got my grains here that we're going to grind, and we've got a top on our Wonder Mill, so we'll go ahead and pull that off. One of the things that I like to look at before I grind with this is where my grain setting is. So we've got a pastry setting on here, which tends to be finer in grain, versus the bread setting, which tends to be a little bit more coarse. But for this, what I've found in using this Wonder Mill for a while is the pastry setting still isn't that fine. So we're going to take it down just a little bit more, just past the pastry setting, before we grind. A note on how much grain to grind. So when you grind your own grain at home, it does not last as long as commercial flour. You need to use it within about 24 to 36 hours. So you need to be a little bit more precise, because this can be expensive and you don't want to be wasting a ton of it. Typically what I've found, and it's hard to see on this, I know, is you need about 1.5 times the grams that you need in hard grain versus the flour you're going to get out. So I need 250 grams of flour this morning. I'm going to get about 375 grams of grain in my container before I start grinding. That should result in about 250 grams. The good news is anything that is left over, I'm just going to put it in the fridge, and I'm going to use it tomorrow morning to make biscuits. And we'll have a video coming on that very soon. All right, well, without further ado, you're probably going to see this speed up a little bit because it's very loud, but I'm going to grind this grain. So we've got our grain ground. For this recipe, we use about 250 grams. I weigh everything. It's a habit I started about 2 years ago when I started making bread. So we're going to weigh out a couple of ingredients and talk about some of the things we're going to use in this recipe. This recipe calls for separating the yolks and the whites. I would never use this contraption I have here, this unitasker that Alton Brown likes to call it. But for the video's sake today, I'm going to use it because I think it may make things a little bit easier. And if it doesn't, we're just going to throw the thing away. Just my YouTubers. I always keep buttermilk in the house, but William, our 10-year-old, has started drinking whole milk. And I thought I had a half a gallon of buttermilk in the refrigerator, not whole milk. But we got a simple solution for that. So what you will typically do if you have whole milk instead of buttermilk and you need buttermilk is just add about a tablespoon per cup of milk. So we're going to put a tablespoon of vinegar in here and a half for the milk we're going to use. And what that will do is it will slightly curdle the milk, and you'll essentially have buttermilk in about 15 minutes. Okay, we're going to let this sit for about 15 minutes, and we'll be right back to start putting some more ingredients into our dry batter. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put the other ingredients in our dry batter. So we've got some baking powder, baking soda, some sugar, and some cornstarch that all go in here. Like I said, we're going to put the ingredients and the amounts in the recipe or in the comments below, so you'll be able to grab those. If you want to pause now and go grab some of those, feel free. All right, so let's get our baking powder in. We're going to do 2 teaspoons of that. We're going to do a half teaspoon of our baking soda. You typically will want less baking soda than baking powder, and both of those will react with the buttermilk, and it will cause this expanding impact when we start to cook our waffles. We're going to do 3 tablespoons of sugar. And if you're worried that that's a lot of sugar, there's a lot of things going into this recipe. It's going to make over a dozen waffles. So your kids aren't going to end up with a tablespoon of sugar unless they eat a ton of waffles. And then 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. I found with a lot of baking, the cornstarch can add a nice consistency to things. So if a recipe calls for it, and you're a little bit concerned about putting cornstarch in a recipe, don't be. I will put it in my tortillas that I make. It tends to make them a little bit softer and a really good consistency. All right, so we're going to mix these ingredients up, but let's talk a little bit about our egg whites. I said earlier we want to get these really to like stiff peaks. I like to use a hand blender to do this. I've tried to do it in our KitchenAid. It tends to take forever, and this seems to be a little bit of a better utensil for getting our egg whites whipped up. All right, guys, we're back. We got our waffle iron heating up over here. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But first, we're going to mix our liquid ingredients together, and then we're going to mix them into our dry ingredients. So we're going to put a little bit of vanilla in our milk. We need about a teaspoon, teaspoon and a half. I typically don't measure this. You can't have too much vanilla in my opinion. And then we've got our butter here that I melted. This is about 4 tablespoons of butter. So I'm using a hot hand so I don't burn myself. So we're going to mix that in. And we're going to use our hand blender to just mix this up a little bit, hoping it doesn't throw things everywhere. All right. So we're going to save our egg whites for the moment. We don't want to just throw these in and mix them around like everything else because we're going to lose some of those beautiful air pockets we made within the egg whites. So we're going to fold those in here in just a minute. First, we're going to put our milk, our egg yolks, our vanilla, and our butter into our dry batter. I'm going to give that a nice little mix around. And look, if you don't have one of these, you can use your KitchenAid. You can obviously just use a normal whisk. But a normal whisk is going to be a lot more challenging when you're trying to whip up eggs. So we're going to just start to fold these in. We're going to gently get them out. I'm just going to fold them into the batter very slowly. Try to retain as much of the air that we put in those whites as possible, and that'll keep our waffles really nice and fluffy. We got our batter mixed up and we're ready to make our waffles, but first I want to talk a little bit about our waffle iron. We've had lots of waffle irons over the years. We've had the big Belgian ones. We've had some that split them up. Some are square, some are circle. But my sister gave us this for Christmas about 5 to 6 years ago. And it's been the most amazing gadget we have in the kitchen. It makes these tiny little waffles that are in fingers that you can tear off and the kids love. So as much as I thought I might not love this little waffle maker, we use it almost weekly. All right, so we're ready. We're gonna open up our waffle maker. We got our ladle here. We've let our batter sit about 10 minutes. That's just to let all the ingredients meld together. It's to let the buttermilk react with all the dry ingredients in there, the baking soda and the baking powder that we talked about earlier. And it should give us a nice rise and a nice golden brown waffle. So the main thing I try to look out for when I'm making these is to not overload the waffle maker, because if you do, it's going to spill out, it's going to go everywhere. And if I do that, because I still do it, I'm not going to cut it from the video. You guys are going to see it raw. But let's hope we get about 3/4 of a ladle here, maybe a little bit more. Get it in there and we don't spill it. All right, and a little bit more maybe. Might have overdone it. And we're talking about how we're going to make these healthy waffles, but there is one thing that I do add to these for the kids. It's semi-sweet chocolate chips. So we got a little bit of healthy here, we got a little bit of unhealthy, a little bit of a sweet treat, and we'll see if they enjoy this. All right, so we're going to let this cook up for about 3 minutes. The light on top is going to tell us when we're done. And when it's finished, we'll come back and give you a view. And we'll even do a taste test with one of the kids this morning. So we're back. Our waffle's ready. Looks pretty good. We didn't spill any batter, so I got the right amount in. I like to use a fork just to get these out. It seems to be the easiest tool. And you can see, nice golden brown waffle. And here are the fingers I was talking about. We're going to split these up. We're going to bring the boys over here. We're going to do a little taste test for you. So hold on for just a second, YouTubers. We'll get the boys over here and we'll get this waffle rated. We'll see you in just a second. All right, I went and found 3 really hungry boys who just got fresh haircuts, so they're looking real clean and tidy for you this morning. You want to try these waffles?
Yeah.
All right, dig in. What do we get? 1 thumbs up, 2 thumbs up?
5 thumbs up.
5 thumbs up? Show the camera, tell the viewers. 5?
No, 10 thumbs up.
You mean 10 fingers? Is it 10 fingers?
Yeah.
What do you think, Leah?
10 fingers.
10 fingers? Alright. Hey guys, thanks for tuning into the Oil and Soul channel. Till next time, I think we're going to make some bread next, so tune in for that. Bye!
Bye.
Like, subscribe.